Hello, everyone, and welcome to Magic is Real. I'm Shannon, and this is the podcast where I interview near death experiencers and people who have experienced spiritually transformative experiences in general. And we talk about all things metaphysical and spiritual, and most importantly, the insights that people who have these experiences bring back with them and how those insights change the way that they go through the world. So, I just have one question and one request. Would you do me a favor? It's a small favor, but it has a big impact. Last episode, I asked if you could please just take the time, if you're not subscribed, to do so, to like this video, and most importantly, to comment, even if it's just a little heart. We did that last week, and you guys came through, and my podcast numbers jumped dramatically. So, really appreciate the support. It helps trick the algorithm or tweak the algorithm so that the podcast is seen by more people. Thank you again. And today, I am happy to bring to you Nadine Telishewsky. And Nadine is a near-death experiencer, but she has been having spiritual experiences her entire life. And today she's here to talk about those with us. She is also an energy healer, and I'm really happy to have her with me today. So, Nadine, thank you so much for being here with me.
Thank you so much, Shannon. I appreciate you inviting me.
All right. So, we discussed before the podcast began, you have so many experiences that each one of them could be a whole episode in itself. So, what I'm just going to say is when you were a child, you had experiences with angels regularly. Unfortunately, you had a traumatic childhood. And as sort of, I don't want to say an escape because I don't want to put words in your mouth. And I also don't want it to sound as if this was some sort of dissociation, but you had experiences of angels and higher beings coming to relieve you when you were going through some seriously traumatic events. Does that
Mhm.
resonate with you the way that I described that?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
briefly for my childhood, yes. So when I was 6 years old, due to a childhood abuse, I actually would leave my body when it was happening. And at the time, everything would just go blank, and I didn't realize what might have been happening at the time. A few years ago, when I had a spiritual reawakening after many years, I was shown that my soul grandmother would actually fly in after I left my body, and I'd be looking down at what was, happening to my body at the time. And she would scoop me up in her arms and she would fly off with me. So I don't know where we would go together because I don't have a memory of that part. But then she would bring me back when the abuse was ending, and I would fly across the room and I would go back into my body then. So I thought that that was very sweet that my soul family was, helping me out at the time. So I've been leaving my body and astral traveling since I was 6 years old. And then with angels, how that started is one day when I was 13, I started to, I had picked up the Bible and started to read it just like a book. And at one point I thought, oh, angels are real. This book says that they are. There's all these, stories about angels. So I went and I prayed to God and I wholeheartedly meant, God, I would do anything to work with your angels. And if you ever need anyone to do something for you, please pick me. So here I am, little, 13-year-old mind, believing wholeheartedly in angels and everything else. And I said that. And all I know is about, it's hard to remember how many months later, but maybe about 6 months later, all of a sudden angels started to come to me in dreams at night. And all of a sudden, I'd become completely cognizant again, and everything would become very vivid. And these beautiful beings would come in. And at the time in my youth, they didn't show up as their true selves. They put on a shell looking like beautiful people, androgynous. They would all wear white robes with gold sashes, and I can see a little bit of a glow of light coming out of them and out of their eyes. And I just knew that they were angels. And they wanted me to follow them out of dreams to go astral traveling with them so that they can show me things. So, of course, I was so excited, and we would do that. So, That actually happened between the ages of 13 to 19. Maybe about once or twice a year, they would come to me very briefly. Occasionally, they showed me some premonitions. They showed me some past lives that I was in. They showed me a couple of other things. One time I even had it's a bit of a long story, but I snuck into heaven one day after I knew one of the ways to get there, to go receive some higher information that I had wanted from them. And it worked out. They gave me some higher information, but then for many years they had actually erased from my memory the beginning part of how I got to heaven so that I don't end up sneaking in again, which is completely understandable. I don't blame them for this. Yeah, so those were some of my experiences in my childhood up until I was 19, and then they had um, shut down for a little while.
Right, thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm,
then I may be leaving something out, and if so, just correct me. But
mhm,
2004, that's
mhm,
when you had your big near death experience, if you can
mhm.
call it that,
Yeah.
and the one that we're going to talk about now,
Mm,
followed by some other profound experiences. But we'll start there. So if you can just
mm,
walk us through what happened and
yes.
what you experienced, wherever you're comfortable beginning.
Sure. Yes. So in 2004, I was 24 years old, and I ended up having a near-death experience after going to a New Year's Eve party, and somebody had, unknowingly to me, of course, drugged my drink that I was drinking with a drug, and I ended up having a massive heart attack from it and an NDE from that. So what actually happened was what was interesting. I had 5 different premonitions in different ways before my near-death experience. So I'll mention this very quickly. For about 6 months before my NDE, out of nowhere, I started to become more and more afraid of things I was drinking and eating, worried that there was something wrong with them or that they might make me sick in some way, and I didn't know where this was coming from, and it um, increased over those 6 months. And about 3 months before my NDE, I had this dream, and in my dream, I was with my best friend at the time, and I was at some unknown location, and I remember I was just holding a mixed drink in my hand, and at one point in this dream, I all of a sudden, mm, just fell down, had a heart attack, and I died in it. And I woke up from the dream that next morning thinking, that was very strange. This was a very vivid, realistic dream, but I just, ignored it and said, okay, it's just a dream. I didn't realize at the time it was a premonition. Um, then about 1 week before my NDE, I received an invitation from a male coworker at the time to go to his New Year's Eve party at his house. And when I received the invitation, I felt like there was something possibly um, not good that was going to happen at this party, but I didn't know what. So again, I just kind of, ignored that feeling. Then the night before I actually went to this party, I had two dreams of significance. In one, I met a man for the first time, and he was tall and slender and had blonde hair, and I got to see, exactly what he looked like. And in my dream, I had just met him, and he walks over to me and he starts joking around and chatting with me. And fast forward the next day at the party, shortly after I walk in, there's a man who looks exactly like that and comes over and starts joking and chatting with me. So I had a premonition of meeting this man. And the other dream I had the night before was actually another angel experience. So they had grabbed my hand and quickly flew me across the universe to some very different, strange building. And in it, uh, they were actually showing me what my job was going to be in the afterlife. And I was so excited to see that I was actually going to be a guide. And they showed me my small group of people I was going to be a guide for who were still going to be living on Earth at the time. So those were all the premonitions that I had um, before the party. So even though I had all these premonitions, at the same time, I had this other strong feeling inside of me that I needed to go. and I didn't know why, so I actually followed that one rather than anything else that came before this. So in 2004, it was New Year's Eve, and I went to that house party of my coworker that I didn't really know that well, and I went with my best friend. So what happened was I was there for only about 2 hours, and I only slowly sipped on two mixed drinks during that time. Most of the time, my drink was in one room of the house where we had our belongings, and most of the time, I didn't have it with me. I was just out in other rooms. I was meeting people, I was chatting, I was drinking, eating, things like that. So I only went back every once in a while to sip from this drink. The short version is after about 2 hours, I started to feel so high and so out of it and so strange. And all of a sudden, my legs collapsed underneath me and I more fell in a sitting position. And over time, I realized my legs were paralyzed and this paralysis started to slowly go up my body. And when this was happening, my friend was with me. And over time, I realized somebody must have put something in my drink because there couldn't have been any other explanation for me of what had happened. So thankfully, I had told her this before I completely went paralyzed and passed out. And right before I did, I remember being scared and yelling out in my head, God, please help me. And shortly after, I completely passed out. So after that, my friend had let me know what happened after I did, and she said that apparently three men at the party had come over and was just trying to tell her, "Oh, she just must be drunk. Here, we'll go pick her up and go put her upstairs in one of the bedrooms. She could just go sleep it off. I'm sure she'll be fine." But because of what I told my best friend, she said, "No, nobody's touching her." So my friend was so sweet, and she was like my guardian angel that night. Um, she said later on I actually started vomiting black, and then they got scared and they called 911, and I was brought to a hospital. So all I know is I ended up waking up about 6 hours after I passed out, so high, feeling so horrible and so sick. And I had the doctor looking at me funny, saying, we weren't sure if you were going to make it because when I had been wheeled in, he said you were in the middle of having an overdose and a massive heart attack. So even though I tried to tell, the doctors and nurses what had happened and that I've never taken drugs before and I had barely drank, so they didn't seem to treat me that well. And I think they may have thought I was a drug addict. I'm not sure, but they more kind of dismissed me right away as soon as I was barely able to get up out of the bed to go use the washroom. And so they sent me home. And I just had a prescription for potassium because after I had just had a heart attack, they said I needed to regulate my heart for the next few days. So I needed to take this prescription. However, I went home and I lived all by myself. And I didn't feel well enough to go to the pharmacy at all because I still felt so horrible. So I pretty much was just in bed all day. And by the time it hit evening now on January 1st, on the next day, I just kept feeling worse and worse and worse. I was now freezing and shaking underneath all my covers. I was so disoriented again. I barely had any energy, and my heart was going crazy. It would beat really fast and then beat really slow and would go back and forth slowly between the two until I suddenly felt it stop. And as soon as it did, I popped out of my body and I felt automatically just so free. I'd never felt such a feeling and sense of just peace and freedom. And I knew exactly what had happened. I had died, and I was so excited. And I didn't even want to look at my body. I didn't want to do anything else other than fly straight up because after my youth experiences, I knew exactly where heaven was. I knew it was straight up. And I just started to fly up faster and faster, wanting to go back to heaven. And while I was doing that, all of a sudden everything went completely dark just for a few seconds. And then all of a sudden it lifted. And when it did, I was in front of this beautiful um, field and meadow, and there was some mountains in the background, and I can feel and see the energies coming off of everything, and everything was just so lush and gorgeous. And I was just admiring that. And all of a sudden, besides me to my right was this gigantic, hundreds of feet tall being who had giant wings, and he had on a shell of this pitch black smoke. However, he wasn't a dark or scary being at all. This was the angel of death. He was a very, very high vibrational, loving angel. And I can see and feel the immense love and light pouring out of his eyes and nose and mouth and ears, out of this shell that he was wearing. And I realize he's now flying beside me because what happened was he saw that I needed to kind of tweak, the area that I was flying straight up to. So he had scooped me up in his giant wings, and that's when everything had gone, dark for me just for a few seconds, which didn't feel scary at all. Felt so comforting in his giant wing, and he had helped me get exactly to the right place that I needed to get to to be able to transition on. So when I realized all that, I went and I thanked him, for helping me. And he went and telepathically said, "We're pleased for you to be back home." And then he flew to the side of one of the mountaintops, and I saw he was very intently scanning side to side. And I understood he was watching over to see everyone who was transitioning over for that day. Um, so at that point, all of a sudden, there was this bright light that came down close by in front of me and to the side there. And I looked at it and I went into it. And this light wasn't just light, it was high vibrational energy. It had a consciousness to it. It was also unconditional love, and it just absolutely encompassed the entire fabric of my being with unconditional love and the high vibrational energy. And it just overtook me, and I was so happy to be in God's unconditional love. And I knew it was from God, and I knew it was coming from a higher realm of heaven. And I knew and felt that I was back home finally. And it was an indescribable feeling that there's nothing like on earth. So I started to go up into the light. And as soon as I did, an angel came along now, a light angel, and went right in front of me in the same light. And he had let me know that, yes, this was my time to transition on, and I would be going higher up to heaven soon. But first, there was something that we needed to do. So he went and motioned to my left side and put out his arm and said, "Look." And I turned there, and there I had my life review, and I relived every single moment of my life over again, this time only in a couple of moments. However, I simultaneously relived it from not only my perspective, but every single other perspectives, every single other person's perspective as well at the same time of everyone else I ever interacted with in life. And I was able to understand how intrinsically we are all weaved together, and how we all affect each other at every moment, with our thoughts, with our emotions, with our decisions, with our frequencies as well. And I wasn't judged for anything at all whatsoever. I also wasn't commended on anything either. Everything was more just fully accepted, all as it was, of whatever I experienced or decided in life. However, the only thing that felt like it was slightly highlighted every time it happened was any time I was kind to others. So my takeaway from that is we're not judged for anything, and the only thing that really matters in life is how kind we are to each other. So after I had my life review, I saw this giant cyclone of energy underneath my life review, going way far down. And at this point, I've understood that I've had thousands of lifetimes already. And I can see those lifetimes sticking out out of the side of this cyclone is the best I can explain it. And I was given the opportunity if I wanted to review my other past lives I've had so far. But because in my youth my angels had already shown me, at least at that point, about 7 of my past lives, I'm about knowing up to, I think, about 17 by now. But I had already had a good idea of what some of my past lives were. So I passed it up and said, that's okay. I don't need to see them right now. The angel said, okay. And then we continued going up into the light. And there was absolutely nothing that I wanted more than to be in this light and to be continuing going home to heaven. And while we were going up, though, something had caught my eye, and it was down to the right side of me, mm, below in that area. And I went to go look at it, and I was seeing these flashes, is the best I can explain it, that were in that area. And these were all different premonitions, I guess, of what was going to happen in the future to more humanity. And sometimes different groups of people or people individually. And it stopped me in my tracks, and I was paying attention to it. And although some things were positive or neutral, there were enough things that were very sad. And I just remember feeling so much um, heartache and compassion for the really sad things that I saw there. And when I had stopped, the angel had stopped as well and had turned around and was just waiting for me to process what I saw because he wanted me to keep, following him up. But instead, because of how I felt towards it, I went and I asked him, would all of these negative events still happen if I hadn't have died right now? And the angel said, what you see is simply the future that is currently set to be, yet any possible change could conceivably change what is yet to come. And I asked, so is it possible then if maybe I can go back and attempt to stop some of these negative events from taking place? And the angel said, we must warn you. There's a possibility you may not succeed in stopping any negative event or even changing anything for their betterment, but we will leave the decision up to you if you wish to return to Earth or not. So I told the angel, even knowing that I may not be able to change anything, I at least have to try. So at that point, um, the angel, at least to me, might have seemed a little concerned because that was my ideal transition point to move on. I had already planned to only be in this lifetime for 24 years and then move on. Then I had completed everything I came down for. They had already shown me, the previous night what my job was supposed to be. I was supposed to start now being a guide in the afterlife. So um, and not only that, in my youth, they had actually already shown me what my next life was supposed to be. I was supposed to reincarnate next into the uh, body of a woman who was going to be living in Spain. So I would be changing that whole path for myself if I decided to come back to this avatar body. Um, However, since we have complete free will choice, and I was deciding to go back, the angel said, okay. And with a wave of his arm, it basically released me from the light. It felt like, and all of a sudden, I was falling so fast, and I crashed back into my body so hard to where it was in my bed back in my apartment. And when I did, I still felt absolutely horrible and had barely any energy and all the other symptoms I was experiencing. And I no longer saw the angel, but I very distinctly heard his voice. And he said, your mother is about to phone you. You must turn over and answer the phone if you're going to survive. And however many seconds later, all of a sudden, my phone started ringing. And I remember it took all my energy just to turn over in bed onto my right side and answer my phone. And it was my mother. And she had just found out that I had actually been in the hospital the night before. And she asked if there was anything that she can do. And I said yes. I have a prescription and I don't feel well enough to get it. So she did go get the prescription for me, and I took it right away, and it at least regulated my heart for the next little while. Uh, so that helped me get out of that state. And the very last thing I'll mention with this now, really quickly, is as soon as I got back into my body, I had a very clear realization of something, that even though my decision for deciding to come back was because I had wanted at the time to stop some of these negative events that I saw in the premonitions, as soon as I was back in my body, they seemed to have allowed me to remember my NDE, or most of my NDE, but they had erased any of the visions that I had saw at the time. I just see them now as blurry images, so I don't understand now what any of them were about. So that was something very difficult for me for a long time to come to terms with, that that was the reason I came back, and they didn't tell me that they were going to erase that from my memory. So eventually, um, I was able to come to terms with that, and other things were able to change. But just so you know, I unfortunately do not remember what those original premonitions were that I saw in my NDE.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You're such a beautiful storyteller, and so much of that really resonated. And I'm assuming that you were prevented from having those memories because as long as you were going to come back, they weren't there. There is something to be said for not having all the knowledge while we're having this earthbound experience in
Mm,
these bodies, and that it wouldn't have been in your highest good or in the highest good of anyone you might have shared that information with for whatever reason. Does that
mm.
resonate with you?
Yes. So as much as for many years I did not understand, now I look back and I completely understand. I had ended up after my NDE, just very briefly, it I ended up going through a very, very difficult time. Having this NDE was something where I didn't have much knowledge about, and there was no one there to help me out with it or process it, or anything else. And me trying to speak about it didn't go well. So, and a lot of people were leaving in my life. So
Mhm.
I had actually, for the next 16 years, shut down my spirituality because at the time I felt like I needed to, just to be accepted by society.
Yeah.
So looking back at the decisions I made at the time, and the difficult process I needed to go through in terms of my health falling apart, and various areas of my life falling apart, and everything, changed. I realize now it wasn't the right time for me to come back and do all these things that I had come down um, to do as a new contract now in my life. I still needed that rest period, so to speak, to step back and more be part of society before I had my large spiritual reawakening after many years, which was only right at the beginning of 2021. So I can see how now, knowing that knowledge, either would have changed things or,
Mhm.
as you said, wouldn't have been in my higher interest, or I just was not ready for it at the time.
Mm.
So I look back now and I understand, okay, angels did what they needed to. So I no longer see it as a detriment in any way or a punishment in any way of
Yeah.
what happened. It was for my highest good.
Yes. Yeah. As all things,
Mm,
though it may not always seem that way,
mm.
are from a spiritual perspective.
Yes.
So let's definitely move to the 2021
Mm,
experience, but also I wanted to ask you, you're a spiritual coach and an energy healer.
mm,
Were you doing that work in between the first 2004 and 2021, or is this something that's more recent for you?
mm. Yes. So during the years that I, had shut myself down spiritually, I was for a decade, I was working with the homeless population, and that was my passion for a long time. And I thought that that's what I was always going to do. And I worked in some other social service fields. So Those are the things I was doing. It was only at the beginning of 2021 when it was me, after all those years, finally saying out literally into the universe one day, that's it. I'm done. I've, shut off my spirituality all these years. And it always felt like a heartache, a grief to me, a longing for that I had shut down. And I finally more said, that's it. I simply don't care anymore, what society may think of me or anything else. I need to open this back up. And I said, angels, I don't even know if you're there anymore. I haven't seen you in all these years, but I am ready to open up to my spirituality. I want you to come back and work with you once again. And I even said, what is maybe even one of Angel's biggest problems that you have that maybe a human like me can help you with? If you tell me, I'll help you. So here I am making this grand, all these grand things out into the universe, like I did when I was 13 years old. Um, and I absolutely meant it. And oh my gosh, everything changed in the next few weeks to have angels come back to me. I realized that I can now more astral travel at will, which I didn't know before I had um, the ability to do. I was able to hear their voices and channel them, and all these abilities opened up. They told me what my soul name is. They said that it was Royet, and that very much resonated with me because my favorite color was always red.
Red.
I've even had people nickname me Red in life. And when I looked up the meaning of Royat, it's derived from ancient Sanskrit and means the color red. So that was very fitting for me. Um, and so very quickly, all these experiences happened. I reopened spiritually, and right away they told me, okay, you know what? Everything's going to be different now. You're going to start doing talks. You're going to open up your own business. You're going to be helping people. And I went and said, whoa, um, I said, sorry, I think you have the wrong person. You should go find the person that you have me confused with because that's not me. And they said, no, we know who you are. This is going to happen. And I said, have you met me? I've been in this, severe depression for years. I'm like a hermit. I don't even really leave the house anymore. If I do, I wear a cap. I'm terrified of everyone and everything at this point. I I'm terrified of public speaking. What do you mean I'm going to do talks? What do you mean I'm going to open up a business? I don't know how to do any of these things. And they said, don't worry, it'll happen. And I pretty much said to them, okay, I'm just happy you guys are back and I'm willing to work with you, but those things can't happen. Lo and behold, I found out when you really are on your right path, I still don't completely know how it happened, but door after door after door literally just started opening up and offering opportunities to me to have these things happen. And I just kept stepping through that door and stepping through the door and stepping through it. And a year later, I went and I was confused and I went to say to my angels, you know what? I think you guys are right. And they said, yes. Of course,
Of course they're
of
right.
course they're right. But yes, so in any case, it was all because of them and all their motivation and me, I guess, now being on this right spiritual path when I was ready for it and I was ready to completely open back up to it. It just simply happened. And that's how I became an energy healer and spiritual coach.
Yeah. That's really cool. All right, so let's cut to 2021. Tell us what happened.
Mm. Yes. So during that giant spiritual reawakening that I had, and all these experience and astral traveling with angels and learning all these beautiful messages from the light, one of the more profound things that also happened is I went and told angels, okay, I've been dealing with trauma my whole life. I'm in my 40s now. I'm still dealing with PTSD. I used to have anxiety attacks, depression, a whole slew of health issues as well. And I said, just what do I need to do? I want to heal myself. How do I do this? I'm willing to do whatever it takes. So they said, okay. And they gave me some, quickly, just some very basic information of how our energy systems work and one basis of it is as we go through life, it's absolutely no fault of our own. We're not shown who and what we really are and how our energy bodies work, and that we end up getting all these trapped mental and emotional effects from all these, anywhere from traumatic to stressful to difficult to hurtful experiences we go in life. And they showed me that I needed to release all those blocks that were in my system, and that there's also a message behind all these blocks that we have. So if we can release and let go of whatever the initial hurt was for many of our experiences, we can let go of those blocks in our system, and we can hear the message behind what they are and follow that message, we can heal. We can all be our own healers. So I went through these experiences and through their teachings where I was able to go back through my whole life, for example, to all the different experiences where I um, had been hurt by in any way, shape, or form, and I released every single one of those. And I was able to remove all those blocks, all those mental, emotional effects from my body. In one of the most profound ones, the very first one that angels took me to. They took me to the astral realm, and at one point during this process of just starting to learn to release, they suddenly put my childhood abuser in front of me. And they stood back and they didn't say anything, and they wanted me to just decide out of my free will choice what I wanted to do. And in my mind, I thought, okay, um, I don't want to say anything to him at all. I don't need to ask him anything. I don't need to get angry at him. I just want to be done with my trauma. That was the only thing I wanted to do. And one of the many messages angels told me, and angels are very, very literal in everything they say, is unconditional love heals all wounds. And they meant it literal. And I said, okay, if unconditional love is going to heal my deepest wound with this man who caused me my greatest pain, I need to do all the kindest things back to him in return to heal this trauma. And I thought, what are all the nicest things I can do for someone? My first thought was, well, the nicest things I can do is put someone in God's unconditional love energy, because that was the most profound, wonderful moment of my life, is being in God's light in my NDE. And I looked around in the astral realm and I said, God, can I borrow a ray of your love light energy? And a ray of light appeared in the background. And I said, okay, thank you, God. And then I thought, okay, well, first I'm going to say some things to him. And I said, I choose to see everything in life just as a learning experience. So I choose to see what you did to me as a learning experience. Thank you for your very hard lesson in life. I choose to completely forgive you. I choose to completely let you go. And I'm going to send you off into the light for whatever's next for you. And I thought, okay, well, now how do I get him into this light? And I have this, actually, I have it right here. I have this fluffy white blanket that is my comfort blanket that I wrap around me on my couch when I want to be comforted. And I thought, well, maybe I can make him a blanket on the astral realm. So out of my hands for the first time, you can manifest anything you want there instantly through thought and intention. And I manifested a blanket, and I put unconditional love energy that I felt out of my heart into it. And I wrapped it around him like he was a little baby, and I was swaddling him because that's the sweetest thing I can think to do back to him in return. And I said everything I needed to say, and I sent unconditional love out of my heart center, and it pushed him in a wave all the way up into the light. And as soon as he completely disappeared up into God's light, I felt like 1,000 tons of weight broke off of my chest and shoulders and back. It broke off of me and off of my soul, my energy body, and went with him up into the light. And as difficult as that was for me to do, the next day I woke up and everything was different. My PTSD was literally gone. I now can remember what this man did to me. And it's as if now I see it like on a movie where it was one actor did it to another actor. So I don't need to take it on. I don't have the mental and emotional effects. I don't break down anymore. I don't have those symptoms. And after Angel showed me how profound this is, of what I simply call the letting go technique now, of doing this, I went back through my whole life and did that with everyone. And then angels let me know that the second part of this is that I now needed to go back through my entire life and do it with myself. And that was actually more difficult for me to do, with coming face to face with myself at every area of my life and tell myself, Nadine, I forgive you. It's okay. I love you. I'm proud of you. We're going to let go of whatever it is that I held against myself, whatever negativity I had seen towards myself. Um, it was a process. But after I had done this main letting go technique with others and myself, and many other beautiful teachings that angels had shown me of how to heal in every way, shape, and form, and for the first time, treat myself with the same unconditional acceptance, unconditional love that I never knew how to do before, it literally helped heal all of my health issues. I haven't had an anxiety attack for years now. PTSD is gone. All my health issues I actually pushed down 90+%. And what I mean by that, for this very last part, is I technically did not heal any of my health issues. What I did was I unblocked my energy system, so much so that my own natural frequency raised so high that angels said no injury or illness can manifest in high vibrational energy. So when I cleared everything and everything went up, all my health issues are still there, but they do not manifest the symptoms because of what I was able to do. And as long as I keep maintenance of having taken care of myself to keep my energy up, I all my symptoms are barely there, and I barely realize um, that 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 they're there, that they manifest the symptoms. So this to me was so profound in my healing process, and that is when, as soon as I healed myself, I said, "That's it. I'm going to be an energy healer now. I want to go out and heal everyone else." And that was uh, one of the main um, experiences that I had after my awakening. That I'm so grateful to my angels for showing me how to do this.
Thank you for sharing. That's for being so vulnerable. I know that is there's unfortunately so much shame
Mm,
around trauma and PTSD, even though we're
mm,
talking about it a lot more these days.
yeah.
Um, but I have several friends who have PTSD, and it's
Mm,
no joke. And it's the brain's way of protecting you, quote
mm,
unquote. But it becomes hyper vigilant. It's supposed to protect you so that you don't it does something doesn't happen again. So it keeps
mm,
looping the danger, the danger, the danger, so that you're never so you can't rest. And it's supposed to be a survival instinct, but actually it just breaks you down and affects your health
mm,
and affects your
yeah.
state of mind and affects your reactivity and all sorts of things. So it's really difficult. And I'm so happy for you to have found relief. And I know you're not saying it's perfect, you're still
Mm,
human, but
yeah.
that offers so much hope, and
Mm,
that people can heal. I'm a big proponent of trauma therapy, not just therapy,
mm,
but EMDR therapy,
yeah.
whatever trauma therapy works for you. And a lot of people might be skeptical, but energy healing has been, in all of my healing, the
Mm,
thing that has worked for me the most. That's not to say that traditional therapies are not also super important. So thank you for sharing that, and I'm really happy for you that you're at peace now. But
mm,
generally, but at peace.
mm,
Um, so when you talk about energy healing that you do for
mm,
other people, is this something that you innately discovered your own methods of healing, or did you study different modalities? What
mm.
types of modalities are you using with your clients?
Yes. So for me, all the way back when I was 20, I started to learn about different modalities. So I actually learned about four different ones. And this is in all the years before my awakening. The first one that resonated with me the most in all those years before my awakening was actually Dr. Eric Pearl's reconnective healing. So um, I had dabbled in that at times over the years for myself and others. However, when I had my reawakening, and angels were showing me so many experiences in the astral realm and how to make connections and use energies in a different way. And when I learned all that, I actually used to um, leave my body and go up above the earth. And there's times I would say, okay, today I'm going to connect to all people in the world and, send love energy, just not with a purpose to try to mm, heal everything, but more just send, the light and the love and allow that to just, if someone needs it and if it might help them, just to connect with everyone and try to bring that up. Or sometimes I'd send it into the core of Mother Earth, um, and make energy connections. And they showed me various light elements. So, for example, they showed me one that was three flames, but the flames are made out of light, of course, light energy, and they're very slow moving. And that one they called the 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 flame of solace. And if I put that on someone, the best um, way I can describe it is you feel like solace, you feel peace. So it helps, bring that anxiety and whatnot down. So they showed me some different things. They also showed me, since white light is all the colors put together of the rainbow, I can pull apart, the strands, and each one is a different color, and they call it an essence energy. And each one has a different frequency to it and can be used for healing. So for example, a lot of times I will use green in healing. And I don't know what I can't put into words what green is, but I know how it feels. It just has this feeling, healing, soothing um, feeling to it. So it to me, it's the most healing out of all the different colors. So I'll use a lot of green. Blue is for someone, if someone, suffers from a lot of anxiety or something like that, I will put the blue through them at one point, because blue has the most safe, comforting feeling that I can explain to it. So, for example, so these are just some examples of things angels showed me with connections and with energies. So, actually, when I first went through my own healing process, and then they knew I wanted to become an energy healer, I went and was asking them, "Oh, okay, as much as I had dabbled in and learned just through books and various ways about different modalities, I hadn't actually gotten any certificates in those other modalities I learned about. So here I am saying, oh, which certificates should I go get now, right? Who should I learn under so I can go get a whole bunch of these?" And they told me, no, don't get any of them. They said, just stick to what I learned on the astral realm with them in terms of energies and frequencies, and my own type of healing, which actually is I leave my body when I energy heal someone, and someone's astral self always meets me on the astral realm, because they, of course, always know what's going on, and that is when I send energy to their system, and then I'm able to see and feel where the blocks might be in their system, and I'm able to just naturally remove with my the higher light energy that we all have access to, whatever somebody's higher self is ready to release. It's so beautiful. The energy just goes through. I can remove the blocks and send everything up into the light. And whatever blocks are still there, that's okay. I'm able to then get the message about why it might be there, or what they may need to work on, to be able to have those blocks release. So this is what more angels had shown me, and this is why they said they didn't want me to get um, any other certificates or use other modalities, not because there is anything wrong at all with any of the modalities. I am a firm believer that all of us can be equal to each other, because in terms of energy healing, because we all pull from the exact same unconditionally loving light source and are using it with intention for the same way to heal. So it wasn't about that. It was just they showed me that because we're each unique and we each have unique abilities, they wanted me to just use my unique abilities in the way that resonated the most and was most beneficial for me. So that's why they wanted me to just stick to it. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm just going to stick to doing how I understand to use energy. And yeah.
That's so well said. I really appreciate everything that you did say.
Mm,
Uh, in summation, there's so much. What is it that you most want people to know
mm,
about
yes,
whatever you like, just whatever comes to mind?
sure. A few things. A we're each our own healers. So even for me, whenever I go to work with somebody, I let them know I'm just a conduit to be able to pull in the higher energy. And even everything I take them through, I let them know if it resonates with them, they can all do the same things that I did. Um, through visualization. They don't need to leave your body like I do to be on an astral realm. Angels showed me that everything that we visualize in our minds is real. It actually is happening on a realm somewhere. This is how we create because we're all pieces of
Mm.
God. We're all creators. So I want everyone to know that yes, everyone can be and learn to be their own healers if that of course resonates with them because everything is about free will choice. Everything is about what resonates with them, but it is possible. Healing for anyone is possible. That's the first thing. The second thing is I was shown from so many different aspects, especially even from having a experience of unity consciousness at one point that angels gave me, where I became the entire universe. And I had the planets and everything else moving around within me as I was the universe. And it was so beautiful. And the best way I can explain it is it was a giant, felt like a giant dance and symphony all within me of all the planets and the solar systems and everything all moving around, and everything more had a system and a reason and a place. And I even felt all animals and all people and all nature and everything. And absolutely everything in the universe has a different tone, a different vibration, and a different resonance. So, with everything giving off these beautiful different tones, that's why it felt like a symphony to me, hearing them all at once. And the dance is everything all in transition and in flux, but everything all moving around. And it was so beautiful to experience all of this and to understand that absolutely everything has consciousness, even objects, even all nature, everything. We're all tiny little quarks, all living in God's beautiful body of the universe. So we can never be separated from God. We are God. We're just pieces of Him, her. So we always have that connection, no matter what. So these are some of the other most profound things that had helped me understand that here there is no such thing as separation. It's all just an illusion for us to have a learning experience, but know that we all are one and we all are part of God, and there is no way that we can ever really be separated from anyone or anything. So we are all safe in that regard as well, and there is absolutely nothing to fear.
Gorgeous, beautiful. Thank you so much, Nadine. It's been such a pleasure to have you here. And I just appreciate your, again, your vulnerability and your eloquence. So I'm really looking forward to getting this out. I know that everything that you have to share is going to be immensely helpful to so many people. And just keep shining your beautiful light.
Mm,
I was telling you earlier that I just see this bright blue aura around you, and it's just gorgeous. And
mm,
blue to me is throat chakra. And
mm,
actually, before we started recording, you had said that speaking publicly isn't comfortable for you and that you've
mhm.
worked on
Yeah.
it and you've gotten more comfortable at it. But when I see that blue aura, to me, that's you speaking your truth and speaking so much
Mm,
wisdom and doing it seemingly effortlessly. So continue to trust in that. You're such a beautiful person. And I'm so grateful that you showed up today.
mm. Thank you so much for your kind words there, Shannon. That's so wonderful. I greatly appreciate it. And yes, you've got a beautiful energy coming off of you as well, I can say, especially since I feel energies off of everyone and everything at this point in my life. So yes, thank you for your beautiful energy and thank you for your time. Appreciate
My
it.
pleasure. Thank you.